Riverside. My mom was born in Indio, so I was second generation in California. My dad's from Florida. He met my mom, you know, like right after the war, and you know, like I said, I was born in Riverside. My dad was my Little League coach. Riverside was a town that was about perfect size, I think, at that time, about 50,000 people. We had 2 high schools, 4 junior high schools. So everybody knew everybody from Little League, Pony League, and then I think I left right after Colt League. I didn't leave. Well, my dad's job got transferred to Northern California. And, you know, Bobby Bonds was our big claim to fame in Riverside at that time, and Mrs. Bonds, you know, kept me. You know, she babysat me, so my mom could
so
go
you
back
knew
to
them
school.
back then, huh?
Oh, well,
Absolutely.
in a town of 50,000, everybody knew everybody.
Okay.
And especially in the small black community, everybody knew everybody either from being in the neighborhood, going to the same church, or back then, you know, like in our town, if you were doing something, say, bad or hanging out on this avenue where you shouldn't have been hanging, the news got there before you got home.
Oh.
And people would
I know about that. I know about that.
Oh yeah, and you know, people would discipline you. You know that, Mike? I mean, people would like, hey man, you know, they discipline you and then call your dad before you got there, and then he'd discipline you again. So, you know, the word got around, and you know, you had to be, you know, on your P's and Q's. You couldn't be messing up too bad.
So you didn't get off track that much because you were playing more of the sports than baseball, though. You were playing basketball, football,
yeah, exactly.
So you were kind of
well, you know, I mean, you played whatever the season was. You know, you played basketball. Everybody played football, baseball, basketball. Everybody ran track. We swam in the summertime. You know, for entertainment. And like I said, it was a perfect town, the perfect size. So everybody had to interact with each other, especially if you're playing sports. And you know, white, black, Asian, Mexican, everybody knew everybody. And you know, half my buddies were, you know, Mexican Americans, Sammy and Conte and Chile and Huevo. You know, all my, you know, those are all the dudes I grew up with. And those are all some of the same dudes that I know now. Some of the guys I know right now are guys that I went to Irving and Lowell Elementary School and Central, and you know, we were all trying to be like Bobby Bonds, all of us, because Bobby was the best prep school athlete I've ever seen. And the reason I played 4 sports when I did get into junior high and high school was try to be like Bobby Bonds. And then Bobby had a sister Rosie who went to the Olympics. He had a brother David that ran hurdles. He had another brother Robert who played for the Kansas City Chiefs. And so the Bondses were kind of, you know, it. And I remember I held Barry the day he was born. I think I might have been 14 right before he moved up to, you know, Northern California. So, you know, like I said, my dad was my coach. My dad was big on attitude. Everybody in my town called my dad either Mr. Baker or Big John. And if you were, you know, he had to be a certain age to call him Big John, because that was his name, Big John. And
I've heard a couple of these stories.
Hey,
a little switch. Did he have?
Oh, I got many switches. And, you know, like
a belt. Was there a belt?
Oh, there's belts in there too. And he could whip it off like Zorro, man, like one spot, hit you all in one. But you know, like he was never. You know, he never whipped you angry. Sometimes he'd wait 3 or 4 days for the anger to subside. And that's like walking death row. You check this out. Oh, well, maybe this will refresh your memory. And I said, oh, yeah, I think I got it now. You know what I mean?
Wait a minute, I got it.
Go ahead and be too late. And the one thing he didn't like you doing, man, I mean, he didn't like you lying to him. And he believed in hard work. And if anybody would come over to the house, all my friends would leave at 4 o'clock, because my dad would come home at 4. And then he'd leave at 4:30 for his second job. And at that time, you know, we cut lawns, you know, me and my dad. It was our second job. My dad worked at Norton Air Force Bases, you know, civilian. And I don't care if it's 100 degrees, man. If my friends were over there, my dad would do 2 things. He'd feed you, and then he'd put you to work. And then you'd have to clean the gutter, you had to rake some leaves, you had to do something. So 4 o'clock, see, my house was always, you know, the center house where we played football in the backyard. We played basketball. He put a basketball hoop up and put some lights on the garage. And this hoop that he got, I asked for a basketball goal. He says, oh yeah. So he went to the dump and got this piece of wood and built me a basketball goal. My house was always, you know, the place where people hung out. I remember one time I asked for a 10-speed bicycle. So my dad said, son, what do you need all those speeds for? He said, all you need is 2 speeds, like start and stop. So I thought that was cool. So he went to the dump, got me this 10-speed handlebars, and put it on my 2-speed bike. There you go. That's cool. So I'm telling you, man. But the thing about it, we had to go to church every Sunday. You know, we went to church every Sunday. My mom was the one that gave us love and really stressed education. My dad was the one that enforced everything. Yep. And like I said, Bobby was 4 years older than me, and my dad was his coach. So I followed him everywhere. I went to his games, all his games. And then my dad, like I said, he was big on attitude. He cut me when I was 8 from his team because I struck out and I threw my bat up against the backstop, so he cut me. So I had to play for his friend in the minor leagues. Then next year, in tryouts, I missed the ball. I threw my glove down. I had like a real bad temper. And then people now don't believe that. They're like, oh, Dusty, I can't ever see you getting mad.
No way, Johnny.
Yeah, exactly.
No way.
And he used to always ask me, man, where you get that possum look from? He used to call me the possum.
We're going to bring up the possum a little bit.
And so then he cut me when I was 9, and then he cut me when I was 10. Because he said I had a bad attitude. He said, if you take that attitude, put it in a positive direction, you can be something one day. And I was like, man, that's kind of cold. You know, Daddy cut you. But he wouldn't let me quit, because I was going to quit at the third time he cut me. Oh, no. And that's what I tell my son to this day, that no son of mine will quit at anything. Once you start something, then you complete it. If you don't like it, then, then you